is right. And Trump has been desperately trying to convince anyone who'll listen that Democrats are responsible for the shutdown and that it has nothing to do with him trying to hide the Epstein files. The gaslighting has reached a fever pitch as Trump cuts off the supply of food to children, families, senior citizens, etc. But Mike Johnson...
You know, and covering for this president is like putting makeup on a melanoma. You know, not only unsightly, but it's dangerous. I'd see that everybody's a hypocrite because everybody's imagined themselves standing there with his head. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe at least half the country.
Kimmel came armed with receipts. Carrey came armed with chaos. And Trump, well, he brought whatever that was. Together, they turned political parody into performance art, dismantling every illusion of competence left in the Trump era. It's no longer a roast. It's an autopsy of ego, soundtracked by laughter. Kimmel skewers with precision, Carrey paints with madness, and Trump keeps clapping for himself, still unsure why the audience laughs at him instead of with him.
Millions of low-income Americans are set to lose their SNAP benefits. Trump flew to Mar-a-Lago for a big Halloween bash with a Great Gatsby theme, which is a theme you would select only if you've never read The Great Gatsby.
With Modern Times, he criticized capitalism without a conscience. And that's what we have now. We have capitalism without a conscience. He showed the common man being fed through gears of the brutal...
Trump never needed a comeback tour. He never left the stage. As Jimmy Kimmel says, he's where the chaos begins. The man who turned politics into his own talent show. Complete with standing ovations he demanded on cue. Trump built fame pretending to fire people, and America thought, why not let him hire them instead? The biggest misunderstanding since anyone called reality TV real.
Hard to beat Trump at his own game. He's been posting these funny things like this, showing Trump as a baby, and it does seem to be getting under the president's skin.
He doesn't have what it takes, I tell you that. Slimy guy. He's a slimy one. Maybe that should be his nickname. Slimy Newscomb, right?
Jim Carrey provides the visual. Trump as the world's most committed method actor, playing a powerful man in a movie that never got funded. Carrey says watching him talk about leadership felt like seeing someone audition for president at a community theater in a mall. His speeches sounded less like policy and more like a man reading Yelp reviews about himself.
He took on the American right wing of his day, its worst evils: hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power. We are fighting those same evils. America, in the United Kingdom, across the globe. And we need to be clear, shamelessness is not and will never be a superpower.
Jimmy Kimmel recalls when Trump's confidence was seismic, as if measurable on the Richter scale. Rules seemed optional, scandals were plot twists, and laws mere whims. Kimmel jokes that his cabinet meetings felt less like leadership briefings and more like the world's most unbelievable job interviews. Chaotic, unpredictable, and oddly entertaining. A true spectacle of audacity over protocol.
You have F. Sharp Fitzgerald lapping it all up with his sidekick, little Marco Rubio. Look at Marco Rubio. It's rare you get to see a photo of someone at the precise moment their soul exits their body. There were all manner of colorful outfits at the party, including this guest who showed up in a prison jumpsuit. It wasn't a costume. Turns out it was a wealthy donor. It came straight from Rikers Island.
Jim Carrey compares Trump's presidency to a surreal painting. One of those melting clock masterpieces, but here, democracy drips from the canvas. Carrey pictures Trump posing proudly amid the chaos, insisting it's modern art. He jokes the man could stroll through a burning building holding a match and still claim he's the firefighter, master of both fire and narrative.
We're in a tough spot. It's a very, very divided world, and those on I guess you'd call it the left side. I just call it the sensible side. Is, you know, we're sitting there watching this nonsense happen, and people come out and talk about it like we're...
Jimmy Kimmel dives into Trump's unique approach to communication, where every sentence was a race between exaggeration and confusion. Press conferences were treated like open mic nights, catchphrases repeated until repetition itself seemed like policy. Kimmel notes Trump didn't seek answers, he sought applause. National crises weren't problems to solve. They were props for the show. Solutions didn't matter. Ratings did. Jim Carrey follows, painting a man who treated empathy as a weakness and humility as a typo. Trump could stand at a podium amid chaos and still look like he was auditioning for his own biopic. His expression never changed. A man convinced the world was a mirror he could negotiate with. Every decision was performance. Every setback a rerun. If delusion had a logo, Carrey jokes, it would be embossed in gold. Kimmel pivots to Trump's obsession with optics. He didn't lead the nation. He curated it like an Instagram feed. Every moment was filtered, framed, exaggerated. Kimmel quips that he probably thought foreign policy was just an influencer collaboration. More concerned with appearance than action, Trump might declare an emergency just to trend again. Every speech, every tweet, every gesture was staged, a theater of self. Politics became performance art, policy a backdrop, and the American people an audience, sometimes bewildered, sometimes cheering, always watching the show. Nat?
It wasn't a costume. Turns out it was a wealthy donor who came straight from Rikers Island to thank Trump for the pardon. You know, throwing a party at your private golf club where the theme is rich white people, hours before millions of Americans are set to lose their food assistance, might be the Trumpiest Trump move of all time. It felt like the last big bash before the Epstein files come out. The great Fatsby weighed in on the SNAP funding fiasco on his Twitter platform, Truth Social. He wrote, "I do not want Americans to go hungry just because the radical Democrats refuse to do the right thing and reopen the government."
Jim Carrey picks up on the spiritual comedy of it all. Trump claimed destiny but delivered déjà vu. Every scandal was a louder, less believable remix of the last. Carrey compares him to a magician endlessly pulling the same rabbit from the same hat, insisting it's new, until even the rabbit wanted out. Trump wasn't a leader. He was an illusionist, convincing everyone that chaos was strategy. Jimmy Kimmel turns to the contradictions. A billionaire claiming to be everyman, a populist living in penthouses, a truth-teller allergic to honesty. Kimmel jokes it takes talent to speak so much and still say nothing. He could hold a press conference on transparency and leave the country squinting. He didn't drain the swamp. He installed mood lighting. Carrey adds the philosophical twist. Trump proved that fame isn't leadership. It's just noise with better lighting. He ran America like a brand campaign, except the slogan changed depending on who was watching. Governance became improv without self-awareness, a performance everyone cringed at but couldn't look away from. Carrey smirks that Trump made chaos appear choreographed and failure feel patriotic. Every act was spectacle, every policy a punchline, and through it all, he remained convinced the show mattered more than the nation.
It is the mark of a villain. Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. Almost half of America at this moment believes there is a sinister deep state diabolically plotting to what? Give them health care? What is the sinister plan?
Jimmy Kimmel dives into Trump's version of teamwork. Cabinet members weren't colleagues. They were contestants in his ongoing reality show. Every meeting, he jokes, began with a theme song and ended with a loyalty test. Policy decisions seemed to hinge on who complimented him most recently. The national agenda was less governance and more a mood board of grievances. The White House became less an institution and more a content studio. Jim Carrey spirals into character, noting that Trump's presidency often felt like watching a parody of itself. The slogans, the rallies, the merchandise. It was a sequel no one asked for, but everyone got stuck watching. Carrey imagines Trump alone, autographing hats for validation, whispering, "They'll thank me someday." The tragedy, he says, is that Trump genuinely believed it. Chaos was sold as confidence, noise mistaken for leadership. Kimmel pivots to the economy. Trump claimed to be a businessman but treated the national budget like monopoly money. Every deficit a plot twist, every tax cut a gift to the mirror. Kimmel jokes he governed like a gambler thinking he was strategizing, loudly, boldly, and disastrously. Economic recovery could be negotiated like a hotel contract, and when the numbers didn't add up, he just changed the math. Every policy became part spectacle, part improvisation, and all about self-presentation. Leadership, in Trump's hands, was performance art, with the nation as both stage and audience, bewildered, entertained, and endlessly watching.
He wants them to eat, but health insurance, no. And today we learned that the Trump administration is only going to fund about half the monthly food benefits families on SNAP get. He wanted to cut all their benefits, but a judge ruled that they have to pay at least half, and so they're doing that. We're on day 34 of the government shutdown now. Trump won't even...
Jim Carrey examines the cultural fallout. Trump turned politics into performance art, and the public became unwilling extras. Carrey imagines future historians unsure whether to file his presidency under governance or performance studies. He jokes that archives will need a disclaimer. Some of this may have actually happened. Trump's biggest export, Carrey notes, wasn't policy, it was disbelief. Jimmy Kimmel shifts to loyalty. For Trump, it wasn't about principles. It was about proximity to praise. Kimmel quips that he didn't surround himself with advisors. He surrounded himself with reflections. Anyone who disagreed became invisible. The Oval Office turned into a funhouse mirror where the only image that mattered was his own. Kimmel adds that even the White House walls probably developed second-hand embarrassment. Carrey dives into the psychology behind it. An addiction to attention. An inability to distinguish being seen from being respected. He compares Trump to a street performer who can't stop juggling even when the crowd leaves. Silence terrifies him. Laughter sustains him. But the applause, that's the drug. Trump didn't crave power. He craved perpetual relevance. Every act, every tweet, every policy move was another performance designed to keep the spotlight on him. Leadership wasn't about service. It was about survival in his own theater of obsession. The country watched, sometimes laughing, sometimes groaning, always captivated by the show he refused to end.
President who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb, destroying every institution.
Let's talk about this Donald Trump, even though we don't want to. Let's bring it on the panel for this.
He's a car salesman. He's a used car salesman.
Absolutely.
And he's, you know, he didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer. So who knows what the hell is wrong with it?
Jimmy Kimmel recalls Trump's rallies as fever dreams, crowds roaring, lights blazing, Trump performing like the frontman of the world's strangest rock band. He didn't speak of unity. He sold tickets to division. Kimmel jokes that watching felt like democracy at karaoke night, loud, off-key, and impossible to leave. A teleprompter malfunction could turn into a 30-minute sermon about himself. Jim Carrey adds the cinematic lens. Trump's presidency was America's closest encounter with a live-action cartoon. Every policy had sound effects. Every scandal came with its own theme song. Carrey laughs that if politics had bloopers, Trump's term would be the entire reel. Chaos became charm. The Constitution a prop, applause the only metric. Kimmel turns to the irony of Trump's legacy hunt. The man wanted statues, not history. Chapters, not context. He says it's poetic that Trump will be remembered not for what he built, but for what he broke while checking his reflection. Every scandal, tantrum, and late-night meltdown is archived, not as tragedy, but as tragic comedy. Greatness eluded him. The only monument he constructed was to himself. Rallies, policies, and tweets all became stagecraft. A relentless performance where the audience, sometimes horrified, sometimes entertained, was trapped in his show. Trump didn't just govern. He directed a theater of obsession, a spectacle that will echo in cultural memory long after the curtain fell.
It's Trump's idea of dignified aesthetics, so now Trump's planning to bring in a new group whose tastes align more with his. He's bringing in the architect from the Cheesecake Factory, Flavor Flav's orthodontist, and the plumber from Cribs to add a chocolate fondue fountain to the Lincoln bathroom. The problem is, Trump thinks this is his house, which it is. When you stay at an Airbnb, you're not allowed to blow out a wall. He's not even a renter. He's a guest in the. He thinks he's OJ. He's actually Kato Kalin.
Jim Carrey lands the emotional punchline. Trump didn't just change politics, he changed the audience. Carrey points out how the country learned to laugh to keep from screaming. Satirists didn't exaggerate him. They documented him. He became the satire, and everyone else became the laugh track. Carrey notes it's rare to see someone so committed to their own myth that they start believing the special effects are real. Jimmy Kimmel ties it back to character. Power doesn't corrupt, he says, it reveals. Trump's presidency wasn't an administration. It was a personality test the nation kept failing. Kimmel imagines the founding fathers watching from beyond, scrambling to rewrite the Constitution to include a sense of humor clause. Kimmel takes the final shot. Trump dreamed of immortality, but what he got were reruns. The man who tried to etch his name into the granite of American history ended up plastered across the blooper reels of late-night TV. His legacy isn't carved in stone. It's looped endlessly in sketches, punchlines, and memes. Every rally, every tweet, every press conference became part of the ongoing show. Chaos was content, controversy was currency, and applause was the ultimate goal. In the end, Trump didn't just govern, he performed. And the audience, sometimes horrified, sometimes entertained, will keep watching those reruns for decades to come, a testament not to leadership, but to spectacle.
Back my 8-year-old self. It's been a gift from God. It's like literally like brought me back to 8 years old where I used to sit in my room. Trump is toast.
Yeah, man. And so you just kind of digest the news of the
it's
day.
It's an affirmation.
Robert Mueller?
Robert Mueller putting the squeeze on the president.
Jimmy Kimmel observes that every time a new scandal breaks, Trump's old moments resurface like ghosts from past seasons. His name doesn't echo through history books. It scrolls across teleprompters, late-night monologues, and social media feeds, delivered with equal parts disbelief and perfect comedic timing. Kimmel jokes that Trump's true monument isn't a tower, a wall, or a gilded plaque. It's the world's collective eye roll. Immortality, in Trump's case, came not from greatness but from relentless repetition. He didn't make history. He became a historical rerun that no one can quite turn off. Kimmel points out the kind of fame Trump earned or endured. Every mistake became a meme, every brag a punchline, every denial a setup for a joke that landed without fail. Trump's gift to comedy was involuntary but priceless, an endless archive of self-parody that required no exaggeration. Kimmel quips that the man basically ghostwrote half the jokes of the decade simply by existing out loud. Even now, long after the stage lights dimmed, his presence lingers like background noise in every political discussion, a laugh track that refuses to quit. History doesn't erase comedy. It preserves it. The more absurd the act, the louder the applause. Trump, more than anyone, ensured that supply never ran out. His presidency wasn't just a chapter. It was the pilot episode of a new genre, political absurdism. Governance became binge-worthy for all the wrong reasons, a non-stop show where chaos was content and spectacle the standard. Jim Carrey delivers the encore with that half-mad, half-prophetic grin. He imagines Trump years from now, still claiming victory in a room full of mirrors, rehearsing lines for an audience that isn't there. Carrey pictures him pacing, holding imaginary press briefings for invisible journalists, convinced the applause is still coming. It isn't tragic, he says, it's poetic. The man who once demanded the world's attention now performs for echoes. Every gesture, every word, every tweet was an audition for relevance, and even in absence, he's still on stage. The spotlight may have moved on, but the reruns continue, looping endlessly in sketches, punchlines, and memes, a testament not to leadership, but to spectacle, obsession, and the curious power of being impossible to ignore.